Center for Research and Policy Studies. I'm sorry, I'm told to wait a minute. Yalla, I'm waiting. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, Your Excellencies, ambassadors, and other diplomats. My name is Sultan Barakat, and I'm the director of the Center for Conflict and Humanitarian Studies. And allow me to extend a very warm welcome to all of you to the Center for Conflict and Humanitarian Studies, and especially to those of you who traveled long distances to be with us here today in Doha. I'm extremely pleased that Mawlawi Muttaqi, the acting Minister of Foreign Affairs of Afghanistan, has accepted our invitation to engage tonight in a conversation on some of the pressing humanitarian and economic challenges facing his country, despite his very busy schedule here in Doha. Today's event is significant in that it is Minister Muttaqi's first public engagement outside of Afghanistan since the fall of Kabul on the 15th of August. In the audience today, we have wide diplomatic representation and many academic colleagues, students, and journalists. I would in particular like to acknowledge the presence of my master's students who come from over 20 countries from around the world to study conflict management and humanitarian studies here at the Doha Institute for Graduate Studies. The event is also being broadcast live, and there is a large online following both in Afghanistan and internationally. We will conduct the evening in both English and Pashto. So if you haven't got one of these headsets, please do help yourself for one of those. Unfortunately, we were not able to get someone to do the translation from Pashto to Arabic, so it is quite unique for us to do events without using the Arabic language. But I hope you will bear with us. And in the future, as the relationship develops more between Doha and Afghanistan, we will be able to find more and more people who are able to translate directly. The Center for Conflict and Humanitarian Studies is an independent academic center with a wide range of partner organizations across the world. Central to our mission is to serve as a convening platform to build bridges and facilitate dialogue between all concerned parties in conflict-affected societies. One of our core principles is to make academia relevant and allow the open exchange of ideas to go beyond what one can find in books and classrooms. The event today is not about diplomatic recognition. It is about continuing a dialogue that Afghans and the international community started several years ago. Despite the beliefs of some that the peace process has ended, I strongly believe that a political settlement is as much needed today as it was on the 14th of August, and that dialogue must continue. Every side in the Afghan crisis has a position, and we seek to engage and learn from their point of view. The commitment to dialogue is made all the more important given the ongoing gridlock in communication amongst Afghans and between Afghanistan and the rest of the world, which has potentially devastating humanitarian consequences. Those who have been following the work of CHS would know also that roughly this time last year, we hosted former President Ashraf Ghani. The format we will follow for this evening is that Minister Muttaqi will have an opening speech for around 20 minutes, which will be then followed by a two-way conversation between him and myself. The discussion will then be opened up to the floor in a question and answer session. We do not have pre-prepared questions and will not enter into a wide-ranging and open discussions with Minister Muttaqi without him accepting to answer the question. So he will have the opportunity, if he thinks there's a question he cannot answer, or he does not want to answer, we'll pass on to the next one. Those in the room will have the chance to ask questions directly, while those following us on social media can either email their questions to our email address or simply write it in the social media discussion box. So please, if you make sure you have one of these. And we have quite a complex process of translation. Unfortunately, we are linked to New York. Our translators are sitting in New York, and I hope they're doing a good job so far. You're all able to hear? وين الشباب هاتوا الهيدسيت للجماعة عندنا. You can also. Okay. Let me now introduce Mawlawi Amir Khan Muttaqi. Mawlawi Amir Khan Muttaqi does not really need much of an introduction. He's quite known as one of the leading Afghan politicians. He's a member and the leading member of the Taliban ever since he joined in 1996. He is born in the village of Zargon in the district of Nad Ali of Helmand province in the year 1971. Following the Soviet invasion and at the age of 9, he and his family were displaced and spent most of his life outside the country. He studied Arabic language and religious studies and holds a degree in religious studies. He joined the Taliban movement, as I said, in 1996 and was appointed as a member of the Taliban High Council and was given charge of the Kandahar radio at a very young age. In 1998, Mr. Muttaqi was appointed as acting Minister of Information and Culture and later as a Minister of Education in March 2000. Mawlawi Muttaqi also served as a key negotiator on a number of occasions. He led the delegation that was appointed by the Taliban leader at the time, Mullah Omar, to negotiate with the Northern Alliance. Under his leadership, the delegation held 6+2, that is the 6 neighboring countries plus the 2 great powers, mediation under the umbrella of the Islamic Conference. He was appointed as the head of the Taliban Leadership Office in 2018 and served there for 2 years. He was also a member of the negotiating team here in Doha, first negotiating with the Americans in the negotiations that started in 2019 and later on in the intra-negotiations or the intra-Afghan talks. On 7th of September 2021, he was appointed as acting Minister of Foreign Affairs in the interim government of Afghanistan. Please join me in welcoming His Excellency Mr. Muttaqi to give his speech.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد، إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير. صدق الله العظيم. د دوحې د انسټیټیوټ کې د شخړو او بشري مطالعاتو د مرکز قدرمن مشر پروفیسر سلطان برکات،
Director of the Center for Humanitarian Conflict and Humanitarian Studies, respected Sultan Barakat, respected representatives from the international organizations, respected academic personalities, respected ambassadors, may peace, blessings, and mercy of Allah the Almighty be on all of you. Most welcome and good evening. I am very happy that once again I am meeting with the respected friends in Doha the fact that peace and stability has returned back to Afghanistan. And after 4 decades, for the first time, all Afghanistan is under one sovereign, peaceful regime. And together with this, it is in the year 2020 in February, between us and Americans, a historical agreement was signed. And at the end, all the international forces withdrew from Afghanistan. We got back our sovereignty, and a big positive change came into Afghanistan. I'd like to thank respected Sultan Barakat and his distinguished colleagues for having brought together experts at different times and having convened programs like this. Distinguished participants, last August, Afghanistan has come through a very historical phase. This change, with the blessing of Allah the Almighty, was against so many calculations. It was done in a very peaceful way. After the 20 years of legitimate resistance, we were able to get an independent government and lay the foundation for independent government without the interference from the foreign countries. A lot of people were surprised with this, because a resistant force, when such resistant force reached to the success, a lot of destructions happen. But without a sense of revenge for brotherhood, for peace, and with the message of national unity, we entered into Afghanistan. We entered into Kabul, and we opened our hugs to our opponents, even our political and military opponents. We wanted to enter through negotiations into Kabul, but the fact that the ex-president and the security organs fled, Kabul faced the gap of power. So there was a vacuum. So we were asked to enter into Kabul and ensure the security of Kabul. Distinguished participants, Afghanistan has given the message of positive relationship to the whole world. We do not want to interfere in any country's internal affairs, and we expect the same from the other countries, not to interfere in our internal affairs. Afghanistan, since 1978, has been the victim of invasion, interference, and so many other miseries, and is a victim of so many other miseries. We want inside our country have good governance, and we want to have good relation with the region and with the world, and we want to open a new chapter in this regard. We respect the interests of the other countries, but at the same time expect the same from the other countries. We believe that the long instability and war, one of the main reasons has been because the other countries had invaded Afghanistan or had interfered in the political structure of Afghanistan. If there were no invasions, interferences, and imposing from the other countries, we Afghans will have come along together and will have already reached peace and stability. One of the main reasons why we have this positive picture now is the political independence, and it is that we all decide together. Before the full withdrawal of the international forces, our negotiation team, who I was the member of too, in Doha, together with the United States of America, for 2 years, we had serious negotiations with the United States of America. In the year 2020, exactly in the month of February, we reached an agreement. It was not only for the international forces to safely withdraw from Afghanistan, at the same time, Islamic Emirate and a new chapter of the positive relationship with the world was opened. The Agreement of Doha of February 2020 between Afghanistan and the world, particularly with the United States of America, is to be defined as good relationship fact I believe that the full implementation of the Doha Agreement can, between us and the United States of America, tackle any problems between our relationship. So that is why it is important that both parties remain committed to the Doha Agreement. Distinguished colleagues, as I earlier said, we want positive relationship with the whole world. We believe on a balanced international relation. We believe that such balanced international relation can save Afghanistan from the instability, and at the same time, it can ensure the protection of the interest of us and of the world. We, from the countries of the region, we also want good relation with our neighbors. Afghanistan, from the geography viewpoint, is like a crossroad. The new government has this determination to fully utilize this capacity of Afghanistan being a crossroad and be the main reason for the economic revolution. Afghanistan, as an Islamic country, want with the Islamic countries and Islamic people have positive relation. Afghanistan is an important part of the Islamic world, and at the same time from West and from the Gulf countries, and at the same time with the Arab world and with the Gulf countries, we want special relations with them. Afghanistan does not want to engage into other conflicts. We want positive relationship with all the countries. It is that we want positive relationship with all the countries. At the same time, with the European Union, we want to have positive relation. Afghanistan wants to come out of this chapter of war and now wants to develop positive relationship. The new government does not want for its people to be motivated or forced to migrate to Europe. This is not in the interest of anyone. And we do not want for Europe to be under the burden of our migrants. Afghans have to have a good life in their own country, Afghanistan. Distinguished participants, we believe in political diversity. We believe that there are different political parties and there are different languages spoken. There is diversity and it is a fact, and we accept that fact. Afghanistan as a country and Afghans as a nation with the have its differences with the other countries. As we understand the differences of the other countries, we hope for our differences to be understood as well. And the imposing of other models on Afghanistan have not given the positive result. Like it is not given a result if we impose the models from the other countries on Afghanistan. What we want in Afghanistan is a political structure as such that is responsive to our country's needs and at the same time is able to fulfill its responsibility on the international level as well. The new government of Afghanistan, the cabinet of the new government of Afghanistan is acting as an acting ministership. Like we see the different personalities in that. For the government engine not to stop, our leadership have identified an acting cabinet. So at the cabinet level and at the same time at the ministries level, reforms are happening. In our government, 500,000 the civil servants have started working with us, and we've already started processing their salaries who were working with the previous government. We have not removed the previous civil servants from their job. The new Islamic government is going to benefit from their skills and from their abilities. The new government is trying to make sure that without any discrimination, we utilize the skills of the Afghans, and it's important that we give share to all the Afghans, particularly to the youth in Afghanistan. Distinguished colleagues, we have been in Qatar together with a high-ranked delegation, and we have had very useful meetings with the US and representatives and with the representatives of the other countries. We are hopeful that these meetings will have positive results. I would like to mention that the chapter of war and pressure has ended. Afghanistan has now entered into a new chapter, and this new chapter has new demands. It's important that we all work on the commonalities. And at the end, once again, I would like to thank the government of Qatar that has for many years been the host of our negotiations. And at the same time, would like to thank the Center for Conflict Humanitarian Studies and the director of this center, respected Sultan Barakat, for providing me with the opportunity and to be with you for a few minutes. And I'd also like to thank all the distinguished guests who have joined us here today. I thank you all. Thank you very much. I hope that you will have a beautiful rest of the day.
Thank you very much for this important and candid explanation of the interim government's position in Kabul today. If are you able to get the translation? Okay, no. If you allow me, I think in terms of relationship with the rest of the world, if I may start, you've made it very clear about the importance you place on having good relationships that respect each other without interference, but with a degree of understanding of one's country's position. And if I may start with some of the constraints that a lot of nations talk about in relation of why they have not rushed to recognize the current regime in Kabul. For example, the issue of inclusivity. The issue of inclusivity in politics is very important and has been highlighted as one of the barriers for why they could not engage quickly enough. Now, could you just explain to us a little bit more as to how you see inclusivity? You talked about the importance of political diversity, and you recognize that political diversity is a must, is taken in your politics. But how do you see that inclusivity working out? And in particular, at the beginning of your speech, you referred to the times when Taliban entered Kabul, and maybe on the 14th of August, there was still a possibility of negotiation with other political parties in the capital. What happened to those negotiations? Do they continue, or have they reached a dead end? And what do you see, and how do you see other groups can be included in the government or in the future of Afghanistan?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Manana. موږ نه غوښتل چې کابل ته په دې شکل داخل شو، خو د کابل د ادارې مشر ډاکټر اشرف
The head
غني
of Kabul administration, Dr. Ashraf Ghani and his friends, they fled. And there was a vacuum of power in Kabul. And the armed people who were left in Kabul administration, they started looting. They were looting the property of the people of Kabul. The people of Kabul requested from us to enter into Kabul and ensure security there. It will have been better had a better negotiation been done, had the negotiation given good result, and that if we will have reached a good understanding and result. But the Kabul administration did not ensure the security, could not ensure the order, and we went in. So now I will talk about the inclusive government, what inclusive government means. What inclusive government means. If the inclusive government mean for all the civil servants and for all the workers to be in the government, so in our current government, not even a single civil servant been removed from his job or We have 500,000 civil servants. That is comprised of the high rank and the low rank staff. Only political positions have changed, and that is a common practice for whole world. If you see all the governments of the world, when when any group reaches to the power, they change the cabinet of the other. The same has happened in Afghanistan. If you're talking about the participation of the different tribes, there is no such tribe that is not representing in the Afghanistan cabinet. Now, if it is about the professional people, all all our offices are run by the professionals. For instance, I have come as the Minister of Foreign Affairs. 5 or 6 people will have joined with me new, but thousands of the earlier people who are educated, who have masters and PhD are working with me. Now, if we look at the Ministry of Public Health, if we've introduced a new minister to the Ministry of Public Health, together with him are more than 30 or 40,000 of the earlier staff working. Now, at the same time, with all the other organizations, the same is true. Now, with such a big change, with such a revolution, to reach the level of maturity and to evolve is going to take time. I'm sure that we will have very good achievements. I'm sure that we will have very good progress in the future. And we will have such a strong system that will stand on its own feet and will further strengthen, that will be able to serve the Afghans and at the same time will have good relation with the international community. ډیر تشکر ډیر مننه اوس دا بل پښتنې ته ما راولي جناب وزیر صاحب.
You've acknowledged very helpfully, I think, that 500,000 civil servants continue to work. Does that include women? And this is an important issue because, as you know, it's not just important from the perspective of the international community, but more so from the Afghan society, particularly after 40 years of war and so many households headed by women, where work is the only dignified way for them to live and to avoid having to seek support from other sources. Is this 500,000 include women, and have they been are they all back at work?
بله.
Yes. In the previous government, whatever male, female civil servants we had, not even one of those female civil servants have been removed from their jobs. And fortunately, in our government, we were able to start their salaries. And we have even paid them the salary when Ashraf Ghani was ruling Kabul and he had not paid them their salary. So we have already paid the salary to half of the ministries, and half the other ministries are going to get their salaries. As we get the revenues, their salaries will be paid. With regards to women, I'd like to mention in the area of health, 100% women are working. In the area of education, 50%. And now I think it is up to 70%. The fact that the educational institutions are active. And those institutions that still have not been activated have require certain necessities or requirements. Like in the Islamic societies, young boys and young girls, as for their seating is concerned and for them to be separate are the important matters, and other facilities to be ensured for them. And at the same time, in the other departments and in the other offices of the government, for instance, recently the passport departments have started. All the female staff have been invited back and have started their work. And at the same time, as the government offices start opening, this will develop with that. And all the women who have not come to their jobs yet, they are even being paid their salaries. So their salaries have not stopped, even they still haven't come to their work. How
the main sources of revenues, when you mention now the state revenue paying salaries, our understanding and the news talk about the United States having frozen $9 billion of Afghan assets, and that the banking system is collapsed. So what are, in your mind, the main sources of revenue, and how the salaries are being distributed if the banking system is not working?
First, I have to say that a big government as the United States of America, if they are going to freeze money from a country like Afghanistan, and war-stricken Afghans' salaries are being stopped, well, the Americans should not mind this, but this is so embarrassing. This is so embarrassing that such a huge country like the United States of America are freezing our assets. The fact that the instead for constructing our country, instead for ensuring the order, and instead for providing the facilities that the Islamic Emirate provided to them when they were withdrawing in 18 months, not even one single US soldier was killed in Afghanistan. And in the Kabul airport, when they were taking out thousands of people out, no one was harmed. I wish they had in return done ihsan, which is meaning a good return. I wish they had not frozen our accounts. But I hope from the US officials to give a good thought and to carefully think about this. And humanitarian issues should be kept aside and away from the political issues. And humanitarian issues should not be used as a source of pressure on the political matters. Talking about the revenue streams in Afghanistan, we have customs, we have tariffs, taxes, we have agricultural products in revenues, we have revenues from the municipalities, and at the same time, in the different departments, government has its own revenues, and these revenues are increasing every day. Big thing is, now we have transparency. Now the stealing and robberies have been stopped whenever any revenues are made reach to the treasury. So now we are now able to keep our military forces, and at the same time 500,000 civil servants to start their salaries too. The fact that no one has helped us in this yet, in the whole world except this, that there was 70% of the support was from the international community during the time of Ashraf Ghani. But we have a great progress now with the world. With the United States of America, we have negotiations. For the last 2 days, we had really good talk. We spoke to each other in a very open and blunt way. And we talked on the different political issues. We talked about the humanitarian issues. We talked about the Doha Agreement. So we hope that slowly we will make progress on our relationship with the international community. And if there are any issues in Afghanistan, that they will be solved too. We had really good meeting with the representatives from the German government. We also met with one of the British parliamentarian. And tomorrow we are meeting the EU representatives. So we have positive meetings with the representatives from the other countries. We've had him before, and I'm very happy that in Kabul, a lot of embassies are open, the diplomatic missions are open, and charity organizations, open organizations are active in Kabul and in provinces, and they are distributing the humanitarian assistance. And I'm also proud of this, that despite such huge change, we have maintained the value of the Afghani rupees. And as for the first, as for the first primary needs are concerned, are being ensured. We have rehabilitated the destroyed airports and ensured the customs. I mean, in this situation, we have started the rehabilitation of the roads. So we hope that this will even improve. And the fact that we want the support from the international community to support us in this.
In terms of, sorry, you mentioned the issue of the military forces and the police. If I just try to understand what happened to the old military force that existed. I mean, we used to hear the 300,000 soldiers equipped to the teeth, very, very advanced. These people, where are they at the moment? What happened to that army? Are your thoughts to integrate it with your forces? Are you going to demobilize these people? Between these 300,000 and the many thousands that are Taliban soldiers, there aren't many to work the economy in order to generate the revenue for the state in terms of tax income, customs, import, export, etc. What are the initial plans you have in mind in terms of the military and the police?
The previous security officials, well, I think they were treated like there's a saying, like your genuine children and your stepchildren, like they do it. Those who were very close to them, they were taken out from they were taken out of Afghanistan from the Kabul International Airport, and those who they did not respect so much, they were left alone. But whoever were left in Afghanistan, we gave them security cards, we took their lists, and we allowed them to live a normal life in their own villages. We assured them that they could just live a normal life, and if in future required, if required, we will utilize their skills. If they didn't oppose, and if they remain committed to the promises that they have made, that they will not oppose the new Islamic Emirate. So if they remain loyal to their promises, their skills will be utilized in the future. The policy of the Islamic Emirate is that as much we need, not for the interest of the others that we should sacrifice ourselves, but it's only that taking the interests of Afghanistan into consideration for the security of Afghanistan, we will have the proper number of security forces trained, organized, and whatever number of them we need, we will just keep. And any further funds will actually be spent on the rehabilitation of Afghanistan.
Before coming here tonight, I was looking at the figures, and it was striking the number, the reduction in fatalities, in people being killed in Afghanistan since 15th of August, compared to the pattern that existed beforehand. And clearly that is probably a reflection of the stability that maybe Taliban has brought in terms of security. But within that, there were these number of bombings by ISIS. And following on the discussion about the internal security and the army and what you do with it, what is going on behind this, the situation with ISIS at the moment? And if you could share with us, you may not want to, but in your discussions with the United States yesterday and today, was this issue discussed? Because it seems like it's a common enemy for the two, and there may be areas for collaboration against ISIS, and also maybe related to that, the government of Afghanistan before the 15th of August has already signed joint defense agreements with the United States. Are those agreements still stand? Are you interested in honoring them? Have they been discussed? And what is the future in terms of putting an end to ISIS and its interventions in Afghanistan?
Well, as far the agreement is concerned, whoever the US had signed the agreement with have already left with the US, talking about that security agreement. Any other agreements that are for the rehabilitation of Afghanistan, if they are for the construction of Afghanistan, if they are not against the national interests, of course, they will be respected and honored. And the fact that in the future, what we will decide in certain areas, they are that. Who remember the first part of your question? Unfortunately, unfortunately, uh, mm, uh, the pressure that the international community is bringing on the Islamic Emirates, or lack of cooperation that they have with the government of Afghanistan, or unfortunately, that has given a strong moral to the enemies. The enemies have been motivated to start their actions, but the awakened forces of the Islamic Emirate have controlled them. In the east of Afghanistan, some of the insecurity incidences happened, but they were controlled very soon, and so many were stopped in Kabul. So we have told the world that the instability in Afghanistan is not in the interest of anyone. So putting pressure on the government of Afghanistan is only in the interest of the ones who do not want good for Afghanistan and do not want good for the rest of the world. The issue of ISIS, Islamic Emirate can control it. Islamic Emirates has controlled it, and we have a lot of positive achievements. Even before some of their centers were destroyed some years back, and even now, whatever preparations they had made have been neutralized 98%. And at the same time, for the future, we have good preparation and commitments that we have made for the Afghanistan soil not to be used against anyone. We stand firm on that. As the Doha Agreement has been signed, Afghanistan's soil has not caused any harm to the international. And the fact that we have taken control of the entire Afghanistan now, we have controlled it so well. So we didn't harm the international community since we have signed the Doha Agreement of the February 2020. And now that we have gotten the control, it's not going to be used against anyone. Previously, the government was like different islands of power, but now it is under one sovereign government. So this is a good opportunity for Afghanistan and is a good opportunity for the world. It'll be good that instead of putting pressure on us from the international community start cooperating with us. With this, we will be able to serve our people. With this, we'll be able to stop insecurity. And at the same time, with this, we will be able to engage positively with the world, and that Afghanistan does not cause any harm in the future to the world. You know that 50 powerful countries came to Afghanistan. United States of America came, NATO came. They brought equipment, they brought weaponry. They even used the mother bomb in Afghanistan, but they were not able to control Afghanistan. The fact that now we have controlled Afghanistan, instead for us being threatened, we should be appreciated, we should be assisted, we should be helped. And the fact that we are announcing to the world that we want positive relations with the world, so the world should come forward, should have positive relationship with us. And I have a strong hope that the international community have understood this. And in the future, our relationship will further grow. And the fact that whatever we so far have said and agreements that we so far have signed, overall, we have good achievements and we are happy with our meetings so far.
That the world was really surprised when the Taliban entered Kabul. The expectations were much worse than what the Taliban has done. And in general, the announcements are extremely positive. But the difficulty, I think, that a lot of people find, and particularly politicians who are accountable to their electors back home, is that this announcement, these positions, this goodwill that is often expressed is not materialized on the ground. And we keep hearing people say, we need to see action. What is the action? And I give you one example, which sometimes gives the wrong impression maybe to the outsiders. girls' education. It is a duty in Islam. It is accepted by everyone. It is a must, but it is still being played as yes, no, no, yes, north, south, east, west. And it is confusing, I think, the observers as to whether there is a real issue within the movement to do with girls' education, excluding them from education is a aim, or is there an internal division of opinion? Now that circumstances have changed, you're no longer fighting, you're governing, are we witnessing some diversion of opinion, some more conservative than others in relation to this particular subject? And is this reflected on other more or deeper issues in the government of Afghanistan?
You refer to a very good question. This is a very important question. I would like to respond to this question in a way that we all have understood this. In Afghanistan, there's one thing that the Afghans want. There's another thing that the international community wants. Now, if you will not respect, if you will not understand the difference between these two, either you will be in conflict with the Afghans or with the international community. One of the reasons why the Kabul administration and the US government failed was they wouldn't listen to the mood of Afghans, and they will want what the international community is rather asking. And then on their tough days, the international community didn't stand alongside by them, and the Afghans were left alone. We are moving in a very careful manner as far the issues are concerned. These issues you mentioned, we are not zero as far our position is concerned. I told you that we first made 10%, then 20%, finally 50% progress, and now we are even claiming to be making 70% progress in that. There's so much. I mean, this change that has come. Afghanistan is not a small, tiny country. It has 34 provinces. Afghanistan, from the geography viewpoint, is as big as France. Afghanistan has 40 million population. Afghanistan is a home of the different tribes. There are different views, there are different beliefs. There are 40, 45 years of war that it has gone through. Even today, in my negotiations to the international representatives, I said this, and I said this yesterday. What you want, don't ask it through putting pressure on us. Ask us through cooperation. Let's get to this through cooperation. 20 years the international community has spent in Afghanistan. And in 20 years, they were not even able to get the education to the 50% of the country. And they were able to do it. They had a lot of financial resources. And they had a strong international backing and support. But at the same time, now you're asking me, ask all the reforms in 2 months? There's a saying in Afghanistan. There was a nomad. He was taking his load, and so he took his son to the madrasa, to religious school, that we're actually leaving the place. So make sure that my son becomes a religious scholar in a few minutes. Come on, this is a saying, right? So no one can graduate in such a quick time. Now, the same thing is, we are being asked about something what 50 countries with their support and with their international advanced technologies have not been able to do. Now we are being asked to do that. I'll give you an example of the security. 200, 300 people were martyred every day. Hundreds of people were sent to the hospitals, injured. Since the Islamic Emirate have taken over, in the entire 2 months, during the time of Ashraf Ghani or Americans, we don't even have the same number of casualties that we used to have in one day. Like in the whole 2 months, we don't have it as many as at that time it was in one day. This is a miracle. And this is a big achievement. So in all the areas, we're moving on so well. We are moving on in a very positive way, but it should not be like this. I think he's referring to this question. I'll give you another example. A person was on fire. A person was already burning. He was on the fire. So there was another person. Instead for helping him, he says, let me turn on my cigarette. Let me turn on my cigarette with the fire that you're burning on. Now I'm saying about Afghanistan, if there is fire burning on, people should not come and turn their cigarette on. They should try and kill that fire. The options of pressure and force have all been used. They didn't give any results. Let's go through an understanding. Let's go through an agreement. Let's use those options. The whole world is going towards peace, understanding. Let us all also move towards understanding. Afghans deserve it. Afghans have suffered a lot. If there won't be stability in Afghanistan, what do you think? What big number of migrants will go to Europe? Is it in the interest of Europe? No. Those who take Afghans to Europe, we suggest all the money that you spend on one person, with the same money, you can improve the life of a dozen. Afghanistan is a very fertile country. It has beautiful land of agriculture, sweet water, minerals. And with the blessing of God, we have a good government now. So if you assist the Afghans here, this will be in the interest of the world, and at the same time it will be in the interest of the Afghans.
Very clear, but I think the issue here is, it's one thing when you think about it in terms of security, that you are improving on things gradually, and I understand that, and it does require time, and clearly you need to find your feet before things improve significantly. But on an issue like girls' education, why closing schools? The schools that were already operational, why are we taking a step back? I'm not talking about introducing girls' education into the most conservative societies where I know the previous government failed to introduce it, and the international community, with all its might, failed to introduce it. But in the society that have accepted and have made a progress, why are we hearing reports about closing schools? You've used the argument about availability of resources, but still, there are voluntary bases, there are charitable bases where education is such an important thing for the development. All these resources we talked about cannot be untapped without an educated population. Why are these things happening? Is it an internal, as I said, a kind of struggle over opinions? Or is it just to make the point for the West that you want education, we don't care?
See, there is a fact that we all have to understand. Schools for both girls and boys were closed before us because of COVID. When Kabul was falling into our hand, all the schools were closed already. Schools in the provinces were closed already. We have started opening the closed schools. We're telling you that we have made 100% progress with respect to the education of boys and 70% with respect to the education of girls. We haven't moved back. We have moved forward. We have opened the closed schools. And I'll give you another good news to the participants here, that with the success of Islamic Emirate, COVID has so much been controlled that the doctors are really surprised. The hospitals and clinics are all surprised. How so well was COVID controlled? So COVID, with the blessing of Allah the Almighty, has been controlled, and the incidences are very few. And with the reduction of that risk, opening of schools have already started, and every day it is increasing.
Thank you. I have one last soft question from me, and then we'll move to the audience for the hard questions. And it is about the relations in the region. Afghanistan is blessed by a set of neighbors that are unique, I think, and being a landlocked country has no options but to rely on its neighbors, almost for everything except for the airport, connection, which because it doesn't carry a lot of goods and so on. What is your future policy for your neighborhood? Is Afghanistan aiming to take a neutral position with equal distance from all its neighbors, or is Afghanistan under a Taliban government leaning towards one rather than other? And what kind of role do you see yourself playing in the global regional, in the bigger regional politics between China, Russia, the United States, and others?
Fortunately, Afghanistan is in a very good location. Afghanistan is between the countries, between the civilizations, a connection. Afghanistan has a very good capacity to connect the Central Asia with South Asia. We are planning with Uzbekistan, with Turkmenistan, with Iran, with Pakistan, with China, with Tajikistan, that are our close neighbors, and with the countries of the region. With most of them, we have very good relation. And there are a lot of countries that are that want for Afghanistan, or for Afghanistan to be able to connect the countries of the region for the electricity, for the pipeline, TAPI, for CASA 1000 power project, and at the same time for the railway roads, and in a lot of areas. And this is in the interest of the countries of the region too, to have stability in Afghanistan. At the same time, it is in our interest for us to have good relationship with the neighbors. We don't have any problems for now. We don't have any issues for now. We have good relationship with all. And some time back, media had put something negative about Tajikistan. We so far don't have any issues with Tajikistan. That's what we are trying to make sure that we have positive relationship with them too, to have an agreement with them, to have negotiations and discussions with them, and to talk about the future with them. So the region wants to have such relationship with us, and we also want positive relationship with the region. And the fact that 45 years, after 45 years, we have stability in Afghanistan. The fact that the war has reached zero, this will open the way for a positive change. And we hope that all the sides will consider this for their interest, all the sides will consider this in their interest, and that we will all work together. The whole world is moving forward or having positive relationship with one another. So the fact that our region is actually so backward, so we are required to have good relationship with one another. This is the policy of the Islamic Emirates. We don't work for our interest at the cost of the loss of others. We work based on the balanced and moderate politics. That's how we want to have the relationship. And that's how we want our relationship to be as good as it can.
We have now about half an hour, and I already have quite a few questions online, but we'll give the priority to those with us in the room. If there are any questions, please keep your question very short and precise, and introduce yourself as you ask the question, and we'll take rounds of 3 questions at a time. So, Fadal. Yes.
Thank you, Dr.
No, the one behind you, and then I'll come back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Sultan. My question is about relations with Iran. My name is Mahjoub Zouairi. I'm the director of Gulf Study Center at Qatar University. My question, Your Excellency, about your relations with Iran. Iran was not happy with what happened in Panjshir, and they called for international community to intervene. How do you see your relations with the Islamic Republic of Iran? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you please pass the microphone to the front, second row here? وين الشباب اللي معنا؟
Thank you, Prof. My name is Dr. Emmanuel Inos, Ambassador of Ghana in Doha. Thank you so much for this opportunity, very illuminating. Honorable Minister, my question is very simple. Thank you for the briefing. It's been very insightful. Now, I listened attentively to you. Unfortunately, I did not hear anything about the Constitution. And I think we all know that Constitution is very important. At least that defines the responsibilities and the duties of citizens and even the government of the day, the period of governance and all that. And so I would very much wish if you can address that, let us know which type of constitution are you envisaging adopting? Is it the 2004 one or the 1962? Thank you.
Thank you very much. أعطيه للشاب اللي وراك معه اللابتوب.
Thank you. Andrew Mills from Reuters. I'd like to ask about the path forward that you see for the United States releasing the Afghan funds that are being held. How long do you believe Afghanistan can continue with its financial situation now, and what do you see coming?
Great, thank you very much. Let's give Mr. Muttaqi opportunity to respond. So as I said to you, we moved away from the soft questions, now the hard ones. Iran, the constitution, and the funds. The freezing of the funds.
We have good relationship with Iran. Iran has a very good, well-experienced government, and have seasoned leaders. We have agreement with them. Some days back, a big delegation from Iran had come to Kabul, and our ministers and ministries had detailed discussion with them. And we talked about some projects too. The fact that we are talking with them about the projects mean that we have normal relationship and that we are having good relationship. With regards to Panjshir, I think some negative reports were shared by the media. No, people of Panjshir are very happy. We first sent our aid to the people of Panjshir because they were under, they were kind of hijacked for so many years. The situation is very normal in Panjshir that will not be in a lot of countries. The people of Panjshir, like the other people, are people of the same country and are partner with us. We don't have any problems with Iran, and we do not have any problems now in Panjshir. And we have an agreement with Iran. We have relationship. Their consulate and embassy are open in Afghanistan, and we have good relationship with them. Talking about the law,
There is no issue over Shia minority in Afghanistan, no concerns.
دغه د اساسي قانون نه مخکې مثلا د شیا لپاره پښتنه وکړل چې شیا اقلیتونه څه مشکل نه لري په افغانستان کې.
شیعه اقلیتونه ځکه په افغانستان
Shia minorities do not have any problems because they have been there for hundreds of years. Ahl Sunnah and Ahl Tashayyo have lived together for hundreds of years. I'll tell you one academic thing here. Taliban don't have a mentality like the ISIS against Shia, and at the same time, the Ahl Tashayyo of Afghanistan, with the companions of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and with the Khulafai Rashidin, they didn't have any problems. Like they don't have any problems with the companions of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and they respect them. So that's very important from the faith viewpoint, from the academic viewpoint. So once again, I'll repeat it, that Taliban are not with the Daeshi mindset or with the ISIS mindset. And at the same time, the Ahl Tashayyu of Afghanistan do not disrespect the Ummahatul Mu'minin radiyallahu ta'ala anhum or the companions of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. They respect all of them. So we don't have any problems. I mean, all the Shia who were working as civil servants are still working in the government. I have so many brothers who are working inside the Ministry of Foreign Affairs with me from the Shia, and they are not treated with discrimination. So if there's no discrimination, there's no problem. And we're trying among them, the talented ones, to come to the higher positions. I'm very happy a few days back for the Ministry of Public Health. We got a very talented doctor from the Ahl Tashayyu as the Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Public Health. And people are very happy with them, that he's a very good servant to the country. So such things are going on. Talking about the Constitution, in Afghanistan, since the Islamic Emirate, during the previous regime of the Islamic Emirate, before 2000, the leader of the faithful, Mullah Omar, issued a decree, the laws of the times of Zahir Shah to be reviewed, and if anything is against the Sharia to be removed, otherwise should be implemented. So at the same time, the Islamic Emirate, in the last 25 years, we have our own rules, we have prepared our own principles. So far, there is not a big problem. But the new government, the acting cabinet, will try in all the areas to make sure that we fill the gaps, if there are any in the law, and at the same time, if there are any gaps in the cabinet, to be able to fill them. And this will be absolutely done. Because no country can run without the law. It's not that Afghanistan does not have any laws. The laws of Afghanistan have been Islamic laws for centuries. And people were happy with those laws. So we don't have any problems now. And if there are any problems, will be immediately by the decree of the leader of the faithful will be dealt with. If that is related to the cabinet will take care of that. If that is related to the religious scholars will look at it, or the council of the Islamic Emirate that has led for the last 25 years can also fill those gaps. And decisions will be made on that too. And talking about the frozen amount, we hope that they will be released, will finally be released, because in Afghanistan, there are so many poor people, women, children, civil servants, and they have raised their voice that they will do demonstrations against the US to release their funds. But the officials from the Islamic Emirates have told them to wait, and that this will be done through the negotiations and understanding. So if it will be released, it will have positive effect on the economy. And if that will not be released, we will keep using our other resources to whatever level possible, we will be positively using them.
Thank you very much. We'll take three, Your Excellency.
أنا عبد الرحيم الصديق سفير السودان. My question is regarding regarding your aspiration, Your Excellency, on seeking international recognition for your government. Are you so far so happy about the response about the international community, or you still see that they are putting harsh conditions on you? This is one thing. The other thing is that I have read so many comments that Taliban of today is not Taliban 20 years ago. There are so many changes. I would like to shed lights. I would like you to shed lights on that and how you can use these changes to convince the world that you have changed and you want to be incorporated in the international community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We'll go right at the back of the room, please. Climb up, up, up. Stand up, please, so that he can see you. We also would like to hear from some of the women in the audience.
Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you so much for your lecture, and this is very informative. For the last 2 months, we have seen everything going on in Afghanistan through the international media, international TVs. In our Arab region, we have seen everything through Al Jazeera and other channels. I'd like to ask you or shed the light on the media. Are there any efforts or any future efforts to shed the light on your national agency for information? Like, are we going to see Taliban is using the soft power, at least to show the whole world who you are? What's like to make it through the soft power? So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And the lady in the middle here, please stand up so that they can see you. Sumayya.
My name is Mariama from Algeria, and I'm a student of conflict management and humanitarian action. So my question is about Afghan refugees who fled the country. The whole world, like we saw the footages and the videos, they were shocked and fled the countries. So after your government took over, what's your vision and approach to ensure their safe return? And most importantly, how are you ensuring inclusive or equal representation of the different components of the society? I mean, gender and tribes. Thank you.
We'll take one more question. Fadali, please.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Professor Sultan. Always a pleasure to attend your events. And thank you, Minister, for your speech. Minister, you spoke about the immediate humanitarian and security challenges that Afghanistan is facing. But beyond this, what is the Taliban's long-term economic vision for Afghanistan? You have strengths, you have a young population, in fact, one of the youngest in the world. You have vast minerals and resources, and you are at a very good location. You're at the crossroads of South Asia and Central Asia. So what is Taliban's dream for your country?
Thank you very much. Keep in mind, this is a question coming from Singapore, who's realized lots of dreams. Okay, so we have the questions about recognition, change within the movement, the media, refugees, and dreams, aspirations.
Taliban. It's good that the two sisters asked this question. If they had not asked their questions, you would have said Taliban are not allowing the women to ask the questions. We मुश्किल पे दुआ करे तो दुआ की जैसा वर्ग वही अफगानिस्तान के वर्ग when we left Kabul last time in 2001, the Voice of America shared a report, and it said that there is a snow in Kabul, and when the Taliban were ruling it and had these bad things. So what I'm saying is, they were even referring snowfall to the rule of Taliban. And then the next time, there was another news that I heard on the international media that was about the agriculture. And it said that in the north of Afghanistan, the agricultural plants that had gotten some disease, and they said that the Taliban were doing these oppressions. So the thing is, everything should not be like they were using everything against Taliban. So even if they were not relevant, they were just creating a relevance between a bad thing in Taliban. So that's why I raised my concern. If the sisters will not ask any questions, you might just relate this to the issue of Taliban as well. Well, okay, I'll come to the first question. with regards to the reaction of the international community. I, as the Minister of Foreign Affairs, I see it positive. As for the reaction from the international community is concerned, I've seen very good signs of understanding and agreement with the international community, and I believe that we will make good progress. And we even have been told in certain meetings that in the coming meetings, Afghanistan and some of the countries of the world and their relationship will come to the normal level. So you know what normal level means. And the fact that our respected brother asked this question as to what changes have come in Taliban, a person's house was on fire, just to say. And like previously, the ceiling was made of wood, right? So in the past. Now, when he came the next day, he saw that his ceiling was burned, but the walls had become even better because the bricks were there to have burned the bricks. So he said, if the ceiling was burned, at least the walls got stronger now. So if we've gone through revolutions, but now we have strong experience. Now, with these changes, we've learned a lot. A big change in us is that we've got a lot of experience now. And you will have heard this saying that revolutions train personalities. So the revolutions of Afghanistan have really trained great cadre of experts. And we hope that they will do good work for the country. The question that was asked about the media is free in Afghanistan, and they are working so well in Afghanistan. No one has stopped them. But there is one thing. There is a saying, if there are two dishes, they will touch one another and will make noise. So if ever such a thing happens, if that is at 10%, the media will reflect it at 100%. Now people will think, oh, there's so much restriction there. With the blessing of Allah the Almighty, there's better situation for the media in Afghanistan compared to so many other countries of the world. And we are trying, as you said, to use soft power and utilize the paths of understanding and negotiation. People of Afghanistan have really suffered a lot. So Taliban, children of the same country, and that we were kept for 20 years by them. They kept us in their homes. They shared their food with us. Now it is their right that the Mujahideen of Taliban serve them and that the government serve them and respect them. So we will still not be able to accommodate and fulfill their goodness in return to how much soever we serve them, because a Mujahid will stay in their home like that house will be bombarded by the international forces and their whole family will die because of that one Mujahid. That's a big sacrifice. So no matter how much we do, we will not be able to do enough for our people. It is these people who have kept this going on. So it is on us to serve them. With regards to the migration, I earlier said too, the migration of the Afghans is not in the interest of the international community and not in the interest of the Afghans. And the international community should not do this, taking out our talented, skillful people out of Afghanistan. One thing is to understand, whoever leave Afghanistan, they don't leave Afghanistan because of the security, that there is no security. So the announcement that the US government made in Kabul that we are taking out people, if this announcement was made in the capital of any other country, more people will have left their country. Like if this announcement was made in other neighboring countries, more people will have left. If it is possible for the countries in the region to leave to Europe or leave to America, anyone will leave. It's not because of the security situation that they are leaving. I said this to some of the European representatives. They said that a lot of people make fake documents about threat to them. There is no threat to anyone. For example, Kabul is the capital of Afghanistan. 7 to 8 million people are living there. And educated people and those who have worked in the previous government, those who have helped the Americans, those who have helped the Europeans, those who have fought against the Mujahideen, most of them are living in Kabul. Since we have come in Kabul, not even one person has been killed. So where is the security threat that you talk about? Now, if there are any women, if they share any concern, this is for the first time that we don't have a single woman imprisoned in the prisons of Afghanistan. This is for the first time in the history of Afghanistan. And the positive thing is that previously hundreds of women were committing self-immolation. But since the Islamic Emirates have come, so far, not even a single case. We don't even have a single case if a woman has committed self-immolation or have killed herself. So if the situation is so good, why would people have to leave this country? If they are leaving because of the economic problems. Now, all the economic assistance they are doing in Europe or America, they should do in Afghanistan. And this migrations will stop. And we have repeatedly announced this. What do you call the immigration office? UNHCR. I said this, that they should be invited to return back. And so the doors are open from our side. I'll say it is after so many years, Afghanistan has finally become the country of the Afghans. Previously, it was the country of the officials. If the government will not want anyone, the person will have had to leave the country, will have been forced to migrate. So this is for the first time that in Afghanistan, we have such a government that is, where the supporters of the government and the opposition of the government can both live inside the country, even if they criticize the government. And this is a big change that has come in Afghanistan.
یو ورستی پښتنه د بشري ننګونو خبره وه د بشري
about the humanitarian assistance and about the Islamic Emirate and the economic plans. So in all the areas, our ministries are working, if that is for the energy, power, roads, road rehabilitation or reconstruction, if that is for the minerals and extractions of mines in a legal way, if that is to help the people and take electricity there, or if that is for the train or for the reconstructions. So we are meeting with the neighbors on that. We have our own plans, and these are all the projects that will certainly take some time. And we are hopeful that in the future we will have good achievement on this.
Very much. We'll take another round of questions. Dr. Nijma.
Thank you very much. My name is Nijma Hajar from the Doha Institute of Graduate Studies. My question is, it's been a common policy of developing countries, including in the Arab world. So let's first deal with the issues of liberation from foreign power, and then we deal with women's issues. So my question is this the new Taliban government's policy, especially education policy? Let's first educate all the boys, and then we educate the women, we turn to women. So why, if I understand that we have 100% all boys' schools are open, and 70% of girls' schools. Why don't we say 50-50?
Thank you very much. Liz, just behind you there.
Thank you very much, Lise Doucette from the BBC. I'm afraid it's going to be an addition to the preceding question. I find it hard, the figure of 70% of schools doesn't seem to be the evidence that we're getting about secondary schools for girls in Afghanistan. You gave a very long answer to Sultan Barakat's very short question about the opening of schools. So if I may, I want to ask a specific question. Do you believe that all of the secondary schools for girls can open in the next few weeks before the winter break? Or in the view of the authorities, is it going to take till March when schools reopen again at the very earliest? So some precision, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, and one last question there. وقف عشان يشوفوك. Stand up.
Yes, I would ask you about the constitution, why you have restored the constitution of 1964. I mean, we didn't see a specific or clear shape of the state in Afghanistan. For example, like a clear or a specific flag and the constitution of 1964. So what is there in 1964? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And if I may add one last question, and then we'll come to a conclusion, to do with narcotics. We know that in the first round of Taliban, the production dropped. Then it picked up with the invasion, etc., etc. But also Taliban was accused of financing its operation, relying on narcotics trade, either taxing them directly or indirectly. What is the position on narcotics, and how will it be tackled? And then we'll conclude.
No, this is not our policy. That like some schools should like they were open because of some reason, but I said earlier that we have to take into consideration the Afghan society. You should have concern if this process was stopped, but now this process is in progress. We are making progress. For example, in the last 20 years, there were many areas in Afghanistan that there were people that they will remain behind from education. So now you want all these things to be done in 2 months. Well, the process is going on, and very good improvements have been made so far. And about the percentage, whether it is less or high, I told you earlier that Afghan society have some challenges. We want to be cautious. We have to learn from the mistakes of previous governments. We should not face any reaction. So that is why we are acting more cautiously. And with regards to constitutions, we are doing our best. We want to implement those laws in Afghanistan, and we want to implement those principles in Afghanistan that the people of Afghanistan, the people of Afghanistan wanted. Afghan people, they are Muslims. We are a society which is combined from 99%. We have Muslims in our country. So we all those leaders of Afghanistan, they left Afghanistan because people of Afghanistan raised against them if they have violated Islamic law in the country. So we have and now coming to narcotics. Yes, narcotics. It is something illegal in Afghanistan. Of course, the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, in its purest term, when the Islamic Emirate was in control, when they stopped narcotics cultivation in Afghanistan, it was almost zero. It came to zero. And the narcotics cultivation was going on only in those areas where the Islamic Emirate was did not have proper control there. But when the US invaded Afghanistan, after that, the narcotics cultivation again, its cultivation raised in Afghanistan or increased in Afghanistan. But if you remember, when the US, when they came to Afghanistan, for a few years, they control
And the other thing is the Afghanistan borders, transport, and everything was under control of the Taliban, the Kabul administration and their allies. So the fact that if this opium poppy was being cultivated and produced in Afghanistan, so the fact was who were taking him out of Afghanistan. So he's saying that actually it was the international community together with the Kabul administration that had the control. The Talib Mujahideen were bombarded by the B-52, and they were not even able to openly go to any countries. The Taliban did not even have the right to live at that time. This was far, far from reality. The fact that if the Talib could actually do the drug trafficking all the way to Europe or to the United States of America. So the question is, who were taking the drugs to the other parts of the world? Who were taking it to Europe? Who were taking it to the United States of America? And how this was, why it was not being controlled and why it grew so much. The fact that the Islamic Emirate during the previous regime had actually brought this to 0%, why it raised to thousands of tons. Now, this thing attributed to the Taliban, this thing attributed to the Mujahideen is just a blame made or an allegation made against the. Now, this is the policy of the Islamic Emirate that in Afghanistan we should not have drugs. The drug cultivation, opium poppy cultivation, has to reduce, and the farmers should be helped in the agriculture so that instead of cultivating opium poppy, they cultivate something else. They cultivate wheat, they cultivate maize, they cultivate cotton. Afghanistan can produce a very good cotton product. Afghanistan has been producing saffron. We have good pomegranates, we have almonds, we have grapes, we have beautiful apples, and we have so many different medicinal plants. Now, Afghanistan has soil that is sweet and has water that is sweet, but does not have market. International community should help us find a market for its agricultural products so that it reaches to the other parts of the world. And at the same time, find air corridor and at the same time, land corridors. You know, Afghanistan is a landlocked country. I mean, I'm very happy that the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, and with the efforts from the foreign ministry, the pine nuts of Afghanistan, which is a very good product, and that is an asset of millions. And previous years, the prices had fallen down and the business had reduced. It will start to China. So the pine nut export will start to China very soon. And at the same time, if we make efforts in the other areas, Afghans are also not happy with the drugs. In the last 20 years, the fact that uh, 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 Afghanistan only had thousands of drug addicts. But now, based on the international report and also the statistics from the international community, Afghanistan has around 4 million drug addicts. Now, this is a big curse for Afghanistan. And this is actually left to us from the previous rulers. Now, we have started a big campaign. The Islamic Emirates have started a big campaign for whoever are the drug addicts are being brought together, and we treat them, we save them from the drugs. So they need us, and at the same time, youth and those who sell the drugs, we have started a very strong campaign against them. So now we have stopped the progress of the drug selling, and now people are not anymore going to become drug addicts. So we are going on with the control in a very good way. We should be helped in this regard. Our policy is very clear in this regard. We do not want for this misnomered crop of opium poppy to be trafficked from Afghanistan to their country. The thing is, the world wants everything from Afghans, but do not give anything in return to the Afghans. The fact that the international community has so much of the facility and equipment should feel pity on the Afghans, assist the Afghans, and have good relation with the Afghans. So to make sure that no one is harmed in any possible way from Afghanistan, I think this is a very good opportunity for the world and for the Afghans, and no one should lose this opportunity. This opportunity should be utilized in a very good way. The fact that now we have a very good coordination. See, the thing is now a very good door of the coordination and understanding is open. If the world will accept this, it'll be really good. Thank you very much for your attention. Took your time. I'd like to thank respected Sultan Barakat for having organized this so well, and so many friends had come, and diplomats, ambassadors, and journalists have come here, and our voice is being raised to the international community. I'd like to thank him, and I hope that we will have good meetings in the future too, and I hope that that the facts will be reflected, make sure that they reach to the international community. And Afghanistan should not be seen from the mirror of the others, and people should themselves know about the facts and issues that is happening in Afghanistan. So this is a right that we have on the world to know about Afghanistan. Thank you.
Much, Mawlawi Muttaqi. Thank you for being open and as detailed as possible. I think you've helped shed a light on a lot of issues that maybe were misunderstood or not quite reported well internationally. And clearly from this evening, there is always going to be a need for dialogue. And for all those who, if you follow on Twitter, will see they were very critical of us holding this today. It's important to recognize that all sides have their perspective on every issue. And as a center here, we make it our responsibility to try and offer the opportunity for various sides to explain their position and to engage in a constructive discussion. It seems to me that there was a general agreement on the importance of a stable and prosperous Afghanistan. This is what the Afghan people want. This is what the international community wants. This is what Taliban wants. There are a lot of common ground in terms of agenda on security. Nobody wants a spread of insecurity as a result of change in Afghanistan. Nobody would like to see a reproduction of narcotics and spread of narcotics. And certainly, I know Western countries maybe do not want to receive more refugees from Afghanistan. So the more prosperous people in Afghanistan are able to stay and live their lives normally, the better. And this comes with genuine investment in education, health, economic development. And I was struck by how many times Mr. Muttaqi used the word help and cooperation. So he's not coming to say, we don't need a relationship, we don't need help from outside. He's very aware of the shortcomings of the space for assistance. And I think the onus is on both the international community and the government of Afghanistan to reach a very detailed agreement as to maybe a step-by-step progress. What is it that you expect? What is it that we can deliver on various issues? The same way I think Mr. Muttaqi made it very clear about the need to respect the rules within Afghanistan and Afghan society. Every donor country has their rules about the assistance they give. They cannot just give help without being accountable to their communities. So this kind of understanding, I think, would be extremely helpful. And I'm very grateful to all of you who came today, despite the difficult circumstances with COVID-19. And I do apologize that we do not have a reception. Usually we are very generous here, so we always have a reception. And today is very special. We should have had a reception, but because of COVID-19, we're not allowed to do it. So I look forward to seeing you in future events. Thank you very much for coming. If you can, please remain seated. This is the instruction of the security until the delegation has left the room, and then we'll be able to leave. Thank you very much.